So I've been dying to just finish becoming the woman of his dreams because there's only 3 chapters left, right? So, hold on, my dog needs to get on the sofa. My little girl. So, pretty sure we left off on chapter 27. And I enjoyed these last few chapters. I feel like it's really hard to generalize anybody, and so there's a lot of generalizations about men in this chapter that I ran by my husband. I was like, so do you think this is true? Do you agree with this? Do you agree with that? Some of the things he was like, not for every guy. And he asked, like, I wonder if her sources are all Christian or not, because some of them he felt like were missing foundational truth, just viewing things from a worldly lens instead of a worldview lens instead of a biblical worldview lens, but nothing enough to be like, I don't agree or like this. There's a lot, so I'll try to just stick to what I wrote because it's hard. I didn't write that much because I do feel like, I don't know, maybe when you're in a position that you counsel married couples, and so you're exposed to a lot of different people's situations in their marriage as far as intimacy goes, you have more knowledge on the matter. I feel so not knowledgeable in this because I only know my situation, and so I've had conversations, of course, with people, but not enough to and not a diverse enough conversations to have really good. I feel ignorant, really what it is. I just read it and I'm like, yeah. So some of the stuff was good information that I'm not been exposed to in my life, so good things to learn. But then other things are just like, every marriage is different, and that's great, So chapter 27 was titled Recharging His Battery. And the first thing I wrote, which I got from here, if he is stressed, if he is discouraged, if he's feeling down, anything like that, I totally agree that that is a wonderful opportunity for us to, of course, encourage our husbands with truth, of course, pray for them, but also make love with them, because it is a temporary escape from the stress and from the discouragement, and there's no greater way to show them our love for them and our support for them, and they feel close and united to us, so they know they're not walking through it alone, The next section was responding to him, and I really thought this was good. I think women need to hear this, that we need to respond. We can't just be fulfilling our duty. We need to be into it. We need to respond in a way that makes him confident that this is not just something he wants, and so you're there to, fulfill that. You're there because you want to be there, and you're having a good old time with him, So it's going to build his confidence. I also put to compliment him, to thank him, letting him know what you liked that he did, and talk about it even days later, So responding to him as far as intimacy goes during and after, And then I think she wrote, great sex takes practice. Yeah. I remember having a conversation early in my marriage with some friends that were saying they were married 10 years longer than us, and they were like, sex gets so much better the longer you're married. And we were like, really? Why? We didn't understand. They were so right, because you practice and you get to know your husband in a very personal way and you too get better at it with each other, and it gets better and better and better. So it's funny now, I think back, it's like, wow, they were right, you know? And then the example that she gave about the roses, how would we feel if our husband brought us roses? And he was just like, well, I know I'm supposed to do this, so here you go, you know? Where that's, you know, how they would feel if we were like, if our attitude was like that about intimacy. Like, I know we're supposed to do this, so here I am. I don't really want to be, I don't really care, but here I am because I'm supposed to. That's how we would feel if they brought us roses, kind of like a job. Like, I'm supposed to do this. Hope you like them. Bye, you know. We wouldn't enjoy those roses very well, because they were not in any way excited to give them to us. There was no joy in giving them to us. It's just like this thing they check off their list, and that's exactly how they feel if that's the approach we have with intimacy. And then I skipped over some stuff about intimate issues. I've never read it, but I've heard great things. Intended for Pleasure, I have read, and I recommend it. It's really good. So that's all I'm going to read on this comment on this chapter. But if there was anything in that chapter that stuck out to you that you want to refer to or mention in the comments, please go for it. This is not just me. I'm just sharing things that stuck out to me, not things that I feel like are the most important, just what stuck out to me. So if there's anything that stuck out to you, or that really spoke to you or encouraged you or helped you, go for it. Tell us about it. So chapter 28, the right and fright of refusal. Refusal is a big problem. I feel like I've heard a lot of stories. So the sex and the manipulation thing, I thought that was, I can't really relate to that, but I do. I'm sure it exists that women will use sex as a means to get their way in their marriage. Like if they're unhappy, or if they didn't get their way and they just want to punish their husbands, they'll refuse them, and that is completely wrong. And then I've heard people tell me stories of how they get out of having sex. Of course, if you're lying to get out of sex, then you're sinning, because you're lying, and lying is a sin. So if you know, the classic excuse, I have a headache. If you don't really have a headache and you're lying, you're sinning. How much better is it to either just do it, and you'll be glad you did it, you won't regret it, or say, I'm just not up for it tonight, can we please do it tomorrow, you know? Just be honest, don't lie. And then if you get out of it in other ways, like scheming, I've heard of people that pretend they're asleep when their husband comes to bed and stuff like that. That's just wrong. That's just so wrong. And again, it's a lie, you know, that's sinful, not towards your husband, but towards God. Not that you're refusing, not the fact that you don't want to have sex, that you're lying. That's the sin. So I would really, you know, if that's something that you deal with, stop and be honest with your husband, and then just do it. Just do it, you know? Refusing, of course, we can refuse, but there's a lot to consider when you want to talk about refusing. First of all, it leaves our marriage open and vulnerable for attack. In 1 Corinthians 7, it says, come together. You can read it, but the last verse is, come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. As much as sex is a duty in marriage and pleasurable and wonderful, it is also a weapon against the enemy. and against the world and against our sin. So refusing is fine, but you want to refuse as little as possible, in my opinion, because we need to be together, and we need that intimacy, and we need to guard our marriages by making sure that our husbands are fulfilled so that they are less tempted when they are not with us. So just to look at it that way, you want to make sure that you are protecting your marriage with the freedom that we have to have sex as much as we want in our marriage. So yes, you can refuse, but keep that in mind. I don't know why I wrote this, but I wrote, do you want to be an awesome wife? Okay, I don't really know why I wrote that, but I want to be an awesome wife. Do you want to be an awesome wife? I think, this is probably why I wrote that, because very often when we talk about like what we should be doing for our husbands and how we should be living out our roles as wife, women get offended and they're like, well, what about me? Well, what about me? And obviously, whenever we are thinking that way, we're falling into the trap of selfishness, and there might be some bitterness there driving those questions. And we're forgetting, what would you want your husband to say about you? Do you want your husband, if he was one of these guys that were questioned here, would you want your husband to say one of these comments that are like, I feel bad for him, like discouraging? Or would you want him to say something wonderful about you if he was interviewed? Every time I read the ones that are negative, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would die if my husband had something negative to say, Not that he couldn't find things negative to say, of course, but I want the good to outweigh the bad so significantly that positive things would come out. So, do you want to be an awesome wife? I do. And then I said, just do it. I always say this, just do it. If you're not in the mood, you'll get in the mood. Just do it. Just say yes, because we have so much power in making our husbands feel wonderful or deflated. With a continual refusal, it really will be discouraging, I think, and you leave your marriage vulnerable to bitterness and resentment and frustration for him. And that itself, in and of itself, can harm your marriage, your relationship, aside from intimacy. And then she asked, how are you doing in this area? I think that's a good question to ask ourselves. So scenario number 1 and number 2, as far as taking a rain check, obviously we want to be like scenario number 2. Not that I would ever say, I'll tell you what, big guy, but we want to be scenario 2 in your own words, in your own language, in your marriage. I'll tell you what, big guy. That's hilarious. So yes, scenario number 2, right? Scenario number 1 exists, you guys. And when you think of Proverbs 14:1, the wise woman builds up her house, and the foolish woman tears it down with her own hands. And I always talk about this, how much faster it is to tear something down than build something up. If we respond with scenario number 1, especially often, not now, Clyde, when your husband is think about how vulnerable a position it is to say, I want you, and then to get shut down in an ugly, negative, unkind way. Can you imagine, how humiliating that would be? Put yourself in that position. It makes me think of a dog running away with his tail between his legs. I know that's a weird visual, talking about husband and wife, but that's what it makes me feel like, humiliated and if you do that enough, you are tearing your house down with your own hands, and man, it's going to take a long time to rebuild it. So much damage can be done with how we interact with our husbands and approach them and respond to them with intimacy. It is fragile, fragile, fragile. So then there was another thing. If a husband is asking for something in intimacy that makes you uncomfortable, let him know. That makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. And if he loves you, he'll completely respect that, because he loves you and cherishes you, and the way you feel is more important, and you guys can find other ways to have a great time. So I would definitely refuse in a loving way, in a civil way. That makes me uncomfortable, you know. I'm on chapter 29 now. So if there's anything from 28 that stuck out to you that you want to point out, please do. Chapter 29 was kind of funny. So get creative. Lovely atmosphere. I'm such a fan of the lovely atmosphere. I remember when we first moved into this house, we were very, very poor, and I wanted my living room to look lovely, and my dining room and my kitchen, things that people saw. I didn't care about the bedroom because nobody saw it except us. We just slept in there. So we had like a mattress on the floor and no dresser, and I can't remember. Like, it was like not at all in any way taken care of. And I don't know when, maybe 8 years ago, I was like, babe, no, not 8 years ago. It was after the kids were born. Joelle must have been 1 or so, maybe 4 to 5 years ago. I was like, Hector, we need to make our bedroom prettier and more of a refuge for the end of the day. Let's go make it lovely. So we went and bought like a pretty bedspread and pretty decorative things for the walls and a dresser and a bed frame. And it's not like, you know, the most beautiful bedroom you've ever seen, but it is a lovely atmosphere now. And I'm so glad, because I love being in my bedroom now. It is a refuge at the end of the day with my husband, and I like to look around and see nice things, you know. Obviously not necessities, but it's nice. So I so agree with her about that. More than half of women are unhappy with appearance. That just kills me. Because women look at the bad instead of the good. So instead of focusing on your good features, we focus on our flaws. I think there's a few things that help with this. First of all, focus on the good things, first of all. Second of all, eliminate anything in your life that's making you feel like you're not lovely, like you're not beautiful. Don't feed yourself images and things that are not natural, like on magazine covers or movies or music videos or shows or whatever. You're watching people that get paid to look good. They have work done all the time. They have professional makeup artists. They have professional fitness trainers. They have fashion people dressing them constantly. I mean, you can't watch people that are living that life and look at fake magazine covers and all this stuff all day, every day, and not expect to feel flawed, because we all are flawed, right? So eliminate things that mess with your mind and replace it with truth. We're created in the image of the Almighty God. He knit us together in our mother's womb, and we are beautiful to Him. Remember the truth and replace it with the lies, you know? And then focus on the good. And then preparing yourself for lovemaking. I think that is so true. Like, we want to feel beautiful when we're going to be with our husbands. So, like she said, take a bath or whatever you like to do. Get nice lotion, essential oils, shave, be smooth and soft, smell nice, all of that. I so agree. And I wrote down scheduling sex because I know that we all go through crazy seasons And I don't, because of the seasons in our marriage, I like to think of intimacy in our marriage as like one of the journeys in our marriage. We are on a journey. Like, think about however long you've been married, what intimacy was like in the beginning of your marriage and what it's like now, and then everything that's changed in between. You know, how many kids did you have? How many kids are you pregnant now? You know, like, it changes so much. Pre-kids, during pregnancy, postpartum, now that the kids are older. And then when they get even older, I can't even imagine when they don't have a bedtime anymore. I'm so nervous about those days because I have no idea what that's going to be like. We're still at the stage where the kids are asleep. We're good. Nothing's waking them up. But what about when they're teenagers? That's crazy, you know? So you go on a journey with your husband on your intimacy. It looks different and is different, and there's going to be ups and downs, and it's all part of the journey making your marriage stronger. So don't be discouraged if you're on a bumpy time right now, like pregnancy or post-pregnancy, because it's just part of the journey of marriage, and it's growing your marriage stronger, and you together stronger. So as long as you don't allow bitterness and resentment to creep in, and you keep those lines of communication completely open, there is a lot to look forward to, and it's just one of those bumps, you know? So scheduling sex is wise for those times of life where it's just like crazy. Healthy woman. Create a healthy woman. Oh, yeah. So I guess there's a lot of disorders that can be an issue and interfere with intimacy. So I don't know anything about that, but there's a lot of info out there for that, and definitely see someone. So I'm almost done. This is long because it's 3 chapters. So healthy woman, and then I wrote this down. I don't know if she said this, but I've talked to a lot of women through the years that have experienced trouble climaxing. And the truth is 2 things. You're not alone. You're not the only one. And the other is, if you've got the organs, you can climax. So you're not, there's still hope. No matter how far along you are in your marriage, don't feel so embarrassed because, oh, it's been 10 years or, oh, it's been 11 years. Who cares? It is worth coming out and saying, I can't climax. I need help to be able to attain that, you know? So the 2 things I would say about it is talk to somebody for sure. But also let go in your mind. I feel like that's what holds a lot of women back, is their brain doesn't stop. Let your brain stop for the occasion. And explore. Let it be a fun, wonderful exploring that you and your husband do together, no matter how long it takes. Not just in one time, but like it might be several times of exploring. And you know, if don't get frustrated and mad, just keep on exploring and be open and believe that if you have the organs, you physically can. So I don't know what else to say about that, but there's a lot of information on that subject that you should totally look up. And create anticipation. Men have like an on and off switch. Women don't. We're like a dimmer switch. So we can't just be like, ah. So think about it. Prepare yourself through the day. I thought that was good. Like knowing tonight's the night. Tonight's the night. And you anticipate it, and it's exciting. And the quote that killed me from Intimate Issues on page 258. It makes me want to read that book. When the wife said, what do you want for your birthday? And he said, I want you I want you to give yourself permission to be a sensuous woman. And then she was so discouraged because she realized that she hasn't allowed herself that in her marriage, and she's missing so much in her marriage because of that, you know? And then the last thing is be a lover to your husband. That quote was so good. Like, we are wife and mom, and that is wonderful and forever. We are wife, we take care of the home, we do, you know, the laundry and the grocery shopping and the budgeting and the cooking and the cleaning, and we're mama. But our husbands need a lover too, and that's us. So we need to be that lover as well. And then the 25 tips for making sparks fly. I would love to hear what out of those you liked. They were kind of funny to me, but I don't know. I guess because just the wording is funny, but when you take away the wording, there's some good ones. Let's see. I love the candles in the room for sure. Getting ready, make yourself feel romantic. The master bedroom being a lovely place. Perfume, essential oils, you guys. Coconut oil and essential oils. That's all I can say. Song of Solomon. They put essential oils on the bed. And I understand why. They're awesome. So, yeah. We are officially done with our book. I hope that you enjoyed it. It's a good one. And I would love to hear your thoughts on these last 3 chapters. And thank you so much for coming along this fun book study with me. There's a playlist with all the chapters if you ever want to review or go over it. And then there's another playlist for The Excellent Wife. If you ever get that book by Martha Peace, you could totally check out the book study playlist on my channel as well. Have a great night.